So welcome back to this week's episode of Thrive, your agency resource. As most of you know, I love having conversations with agency owners about their fears, their failures, their realizations, things that they experiment with because they're curious. Today, I'm actually joined by Sophia Story, the co-founder of Three-Sided Cube, which is an app design and development agency based out of Chicago. And she has an incredible story that she's going to share with us about winning an RFP with playfulness. So, Sophia, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited that we've connected on LinkedIn and now we're here.
I'm excited too. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So, all of this started because or the reason why you're here is because there was something on LinkedIn that you had posted about an RFP that you won with a very different approach from what I have ever seen before. And I thought, wow, this is really brilliant because not only did you win, right? So obviously it was effective, but there was something about the way that you made me think differently about RFPs. And I kind of want to level set there if we can, because most of the audience knows from previous episodes, I'm pretty anti-RFP for all of the obvious reasons. You have clients who are self-prescribing what their problem statement is, what their needs are, what strategies you might use, the budget. I mean, all of it really is detracting from the value proposition of the agency that they want to hire, right? So yes, anti-RFP. However, there are lots of agencies that just by the nature of the industries or the verticals that they serve, they have to respond to these things. And yes, the process, the whole entire thing is flawed. And I would even say that it's even broken, but it's still a necessary evil, right? So how you respond to them, and I don't mean physically responding with a proposal, but how you respond to even the lead is really important. So I would love for you to dive in and tell us a little bit about this unique situation that you encountered and how you solved it, because it was, again, in my opinion, really brilliant.
Amazing. Thank you. It didn't feel brilliant at the time. I felt like I've never done anything like this before. I have to be honest. I'd love to tell you that I always do this. I don't. This was a first for us. But it's definitely made me stop and think about responding to RFPs moving forwards and how we respond to those RFPs. So yeah, I don't do this all the time. So we had a cold lead come into the agency at the start of September. And it was from a well-known brand, Red Bull. But interestingly, the contact did not have a Red Bull email address.
Oh.
So I was curious. I was suspicious. I wasn't sure whether or not it was real. It was very it wasn't formal. It was very laid back, and they just completed a contact form on our website to say that they were thinking about designing and developing a mobile app, and they just had a few questions and they wanted to know if we'd be interested in working with them. And I had to stop and think and reread that contact form and was like, did that just happen? Did Red Bull just reach out to us? And I was on holiday at the time. I was in Greece, and the time difference was quite significant. So I replied straight away and was like, yes, potentially. But I guess what's different about Three-Sided Cube is our mission is to build tech for good to change millions of lives for the better. So what I mean by that is, as an agency, we will only work on projects that have a positive impact in the world. And there was no details within the contact form to let me know that the project was for good. We don't work in retail or e-commerce, so that's not our bag.
Yeah.
So I replied cautiously and was like, maybe. Yeah, but it would be really good to kind of jump on a call and find out a bit more about the project. But I think I replied pretty quickly. I mean, it did get my attention. And then they replied pretty quickly and were like, yeah, we'd love to jump on a call. Are you free now? And I had to be really honest and say, yeah, I am, but I'm on holiday. So I'm not in my usual office setup.
Right.
But yeah, so I jumped on a call, and there were two gentlemen, a guy called Will and a guy called Constantine. Will was based out of LA, and actually, interestingly, he was ex Red Bull,
Hmm.
but he was contracting for Red Bull. And then the other guy was from a team working out of their head office in Austria. And we got on the call, and sometimes when you get on a client call, you just have chemistry, and you're just like, I would love to work with you guys,
Yeah.
not because of the name, but
Yeah.
because you seem like really good guys.
Ideal clients. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Personality fit, all of it.
oh, and they were, they got it. Like, they got that I was on holiday. They got how we worked. It just felt good. Like, we had really good chemistry on the call. We talked a bit about their project. I asked a lot of questions. It didn't get all formal. It just felt like a really good client call.
Which is great from a discovery perspective, right? Like that's how you want it to be. It's conversational. It's not like you had to put a deck together. It wasn't a capabilities thing. It's just a conversation. I love this because this is what I'm seeing in business development also with all the agencies that I work with, bringing humanity and actual organic conversation back into business development. I don't know how we got so far away from it, but I'm glad it's coming back.
I would describe it as magical. Like, I don't have those conversations very often, but when I do, I treasure them.
Yeah.
And it was great because I could ask questions. They were like, nothing was off the table, and they were asking me questions. And I hate diving into decks and making it more formal, but I was talking them through our process, and I was like, look, I've got a deck, but I haven't tailored it for you guys or anything. And they were like, no, cool, just open it and we can go through it. And that's what we did. Like, it wasn't a polished process. Anyway, the call ran on for like an hour and a half, 90 minutes. So it felt good. I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I want to ask though, in the context of that discovery conversation, you're both exchanging information, right? Like you're listening really intently, they're listening, you're both respecting, like it just sounds like a dream conversation, right? Like this is how you want a discovery call to go. What was the one question, if you could name one, that changed or informed the trajectory of how you responded to that RFP?
So I asked them, what concern, if any, do you have around working with three-sided cube?
And that
Uh,
was toward the tail end of the call?
yeah, so it felt really, really good, and it's a question I actually ask a lot with potential clients,
Mm,
but usually like at pitch stage
yeah,
or when we've done a bit more work. But I could just tell that, I mean, if it were me, like I'd have just said, yeah, like this, it just felt so good. And I think halfway through the conversation we had, they were really honest, and they were like, look, we have to go through an RFP process. Like,
mhm.
that's just what we have to do. And my heart sank a little, and I was like, oh,
Bureaucracy, yeah,
yeah, like, because doing something for the sake of doing something isn't always the right thing.
correct.
And yeah, so I asked them, what were your concerns, and their response shocked me a little. Hurt my ego, but they said that they were concerned that as an agency, were we playful enough for them? And it really took me back, because if
It's
you
your
go on,
whole brand.
yeah, absolutely. If you go onto our website, we're quite a bright, vibrant, playful brand, and that should, or I hope it comes across in all of our comms. And we can be quite cheeky, but it really stopped me in my tracks, because I don't think I've ever had a single person question our playfulness as an agency.
Mm,
And it left me, I don't know, gobsmacked, honestly.
yeah,
But it was a moment that made me really think. So that happened on like a Thursday. And they basically said that they would issue the RFP on the Monday, and that there would be a tight deadline. They didn't confirm the deadline, but they said that it would be tight. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, we're going to get the RFP on Monday, and we're going to have 2 weeks to respond. Most RFPs, I have 2 to 4 weeks,
4
maybe a bit,
weeks, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
maybe a bit longer, but yeah, usually around 2 to 4 weeks. So I was like, 2 weeks, we can do that, no problem. I I opened my emails on Monday. Sure enough, the RFP came through. No, it wasn't tailored. It was a very cold, generic email with a cold, generic attachment. What was interesting was the document, the RFP itself, was like 2 pages long. It was very brief,
Mm,
but very to the point, very
mhm,
succinct.
mhm.
Um, but nothing around playfulness. All they asked for was a proposal that outlined like your process, timings, costs, and then the team that would be working on it. And it all just felt a bit boring, to be honest with you. I just thought, how am I gonna like
Right,
no no proposal was playful. None. Like you
right.
can't make it something that it's not.
Right. And also, what's coming up for me is that had you not had that conversation, had you not been really responsive and got them on the phone, right? I always say you have to push back against anyone who issues an RFP that says we're not open to, like, don't contact us, just respond. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Um, but had you not had that conversation with them, you wouldn't have asked that question, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that that was actually their greatest concern. And really that RFP, the way that you're describing it, the way that it was structured and the nature of it sets everybody up for failure,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I I'm like you. I don't think I would go for any RFPs that we couldn't have a conversation. Like, if they want us to put the time and energy, like the investment into it, then I need them to give us time and energy.
Absolutely. That's respect. It's mutual value. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Let's face it, agency life looks very different than ever before. Remote and hybrid teams need better tools to help them communicate and access files, track their time, manage client budgets, and more. If you believe that it's time to streamline things once and for all, Workamajig is the all-in-one agency management platform built to help you do just that. Head over to workamajig.com/thrive to learn more. Back to the show.
So this RFP, I was like, I guess I just stared at it for a day. I didn't really do anything with it. I was like, what, like, how, what? And then I spoke to the team and I was like, right, we're going to create a game. And honestly, they were like, oh no, this was the other thing. The deadline was Friday.
Oh, so you had
So
1 week.
we had 1 week.
Oh, and you were sitting on the RFP for a day. So you actually had 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, oh gosh. And you have to think time difference came into this as well, because we had a client in LA, we had a client in Austria. I myself at the time was based in the UK. So I was straddling the time zones. So like you're basically losing a day because of the time zone as well. So it was quite a challenge. And I thought, honestly, if we're really brutally honest, most proposals are copy and paste jobs. They might be tailored and tweaked, and we know that we should always put creative in there. But I think in today it just doesn't cut it. Like, if you really want to win a project in the design and development world, you need to show off your skills. You need to show something, whatever that is, whether it's a prototype, whether it's a demo, whether it's just a video, but just something. You need to bring something to life to show off your skills. And
Right.
I
So you
think,
don't have to go so far as to like create something the way that you did, in this
yeah,
case, like responding with a game, right?
yeah.
Because that's like a lot of design
Oh,
development time, all of that, especially under that time crunch. But I like that you're offering a couple of different options around that. I agree.
or like always. And I think you just got to go that extra mile to show that you've got that passion, enthusiasm, and tenacity that
That
you
you
will
want the
do.
business.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I would expect that. Like, if I was procuring something, then I would want to see that from whoever I was chatting to.
Mm.
So we I sat down with with one of our creatives, and we basically had 2 days, like, to design and develop something that would show that we could work quickly. Our creative was shit hot. And we could be playful, we could be funny, we could be cheeky.
Mhm.
So we were like, okay, we looked at some basic game concepts, and we were like, okay, well, let's just do a quiz. We'll ask them, I think the dream was to ask them 10 questions in 3 minutes. And if they got the 10 questions right within the 3 minutes, they could get our proposal, right? That was the reward. But if they got it wrong, the proposal would burn and they wouldn't get our proposal. And the way that we framed it was, we did the design and development. We were, playing about with that, and we made it as best. I mean, it wasn't perfect. It worked on mobile, but it wasn't polished. So we were like, look, you're going to have to do this on web. But I was like, how the hell am I, like, I can't just send this to a client. Like, what am I going to say? So I drafted an email and I was like, look, hey guys, I know that we really want to work with you guys on this project. Like, it is tech for good. It's everything that we stand for as an agency. But I need to know that you want to work with us. Like, I need you guys to prove yourself to me that you are going to go above and beyond to work for us, or to work with us.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I need you to answer. I think we only did 8 questions. I need you to answer 8 questions in 3 minutes. If you get these questions right, you'll get the proposal. If not, the proposal will burn. And I think I had some like quote of like about luck, which was like from Hunger Games or something. And then I kind of basically sent a link to this quiz in an email, and I sent it on. It would have been there Friday morning. And I didn't hear anything for 4 hours. Like 4 hours, they made me sweat. And of course I had analytics to see like if they were engaging with it. Nothing, radio silence. So I sent the email. The proposal, just FYI, it was a really detailed proposal. Probably, I mean, some might say too detailed. It was like 32 pages. It had loads and loads of information, but it was really bloody boring. Like, we all know that when you send a proposal, the first page people go to is the like cost page. Like, that's all they want to know.
Which is why you never send a proposal.
Absolutely. So I was like, right, okay, cool. And then it got to, I think it was like the end of our day in the UK where I was at the time. And the Will, who was LA Red Bull, he emailed me and was like, hats off to you guys. Like, that's amazing. I didn't get it right first time, but I did get there in the end. And what was I think quite smart was all of the questions that we asked were all relating to the conversation that we'd had on our first call.
So cool.
And it was all around our process. So they needed to have listened. They needed to have understood.
Oh my God. It's just like, this is everything. This is everything. This is like literally how, if we could create a template for how new business should be cultivated and won, like in the new now, like this is it. I love it so much. I love it. I love it.
It was good and it was great fun. And then Konstantin, he I guess I would call him the master of playfulness. Like, he runs like an agency that specializes in playfulness, really. Play, I should say. And he was just like, I've never seen anything like it. And there was an assumption that there was going to be a pitch at the end of the proposal process, but there was no pitch. Like, on the back of that got sent on the Friday and we'd won it the next week.
Yeah. So really, really fast process. I mean, basically what that tells me is they found you however they found you, right? I think you originally said when we first talked that it was through a directory that they found Three-Sided Cube, right?
Yeah.
So that tells me that from a new business, like, I'm trying to like break down all the steps, right? So from the visibility perspective, you were clearly on a directory, or there was some visibility from a search. So this actually came from organic search, which everyone who thinks SEO is dead or is something that, you don't have to be on Clutch, or you don't have to be on all these other directories, or you don't have to worry about search engine optimization for your site. Here you go. That is not true. It's part of the process. It's part of the mix that you need for effective business development. It's part of the whole cycle, right? So that comes in. It was also your response time, which was the make or break here. It was also the questions, the actual questions that you asked, the nature of the dialogue, the exchange that you had, the chemistry, the humanity, right? And then injecting the playfulness. So it's all of it. It's all of it. So of course, what that ultimately leads to is you made Three-Sided Cube the irreplaceable firm in the mind of Red Bull. And so there was no reason for anybody to do creative or to pitch or to, it was just like, these are the guys that we're working with.
Yeah. And gave them no option. Like,
You gave them no option.
I
That's
think
why I'm saying it's brilliant, because that's where everybody wants to sit, right? Like that's where every agency wants to sit. You give them no option and you don't even have to pitch. And I get that this is a unique opportunity. Like this is not always how it works. So many things in here in this story are anomalies, but I actually see something like this becoming more of the norm,
yeah.
right? Because there are a lot of big brands who are looking for smaller agencies, and ones that are more nimble, ones that are more playful, that are going to think out of the box, ones that can actually produce a game, a quiz that burns a proposal. I mean, like, it's great. It's so fun. I love it.
And you know what? I would definitely say, like, I struggle with RFPs. I find them boring. I don't like, I have never met a single person that loves the RFP process. And if they say that they do, I think they're lying. But I thoroughly enjoyed that process. Like, I was so excited to send that to the client. And like, my heart was in my mouth, like when they didn't reply. And I was like, oh my gosh, they hate it. Like, we've screwed this up. But it was you know, high risk but for a big reward. And I think sometimes you have to take those risks to stand out.
Yeah.
I think what, you know, going back to our mission of building tech for good, what I've learned over these past years is you've got to stay true to your mission and what you're trying to do. And if a piece of work doesn't fit with that, it's okay to say no, or to, you know, to push back on an RFP process. Like, we say no more than we say yes. And I think you've got to think about the types. If you are going for the RFP process, like, I do understand that sometimes they're inevitable, but you could definitely stand out and have some fun with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just to build on what you said about saying no, I think saying no is also part of the equation, part of the mix that makes you an irreplaceable firm, because you're not saying yes to everyone. You're saying, if this doesn't align with our mission, then it's not a good fit. So for me, I think about that under the context of like essentialism. If it's not a definite yes, it's a definite no. It makes it very clear to make decisions, right? So it sounds like your big takeaway, like if we're kind of like wrapping up and saying, all right, so agency owners, leaders who are listening or watching this, like, your big takeaway was really about standing out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this will forever stay with me and be the lesson that we've learned of you can't underestimate how important it is to stand out in a crowd. And we know, especially now, that RFPs, they're just so unbelievably competitive.
Yeah.
But I think there are really smart ways to stand out. This is just one example, but I'm sure that there are quite a few out there.
Yeah. And I would imagine that this is going to change the way that you respond to every single RFP going forward.
100%.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be going up against you if I had an agency. Sophia, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such a great conversation, and I wish you all the best of luck in 2021 and beyond.
Thank you so much.
This episode has been brought to you by Workamajig, the #1 creative agency management software. Show notes at thrive.workamajig.com. Find out how your creative agency can become more productive and more profitable. Schedule your demo at thrive.workamajig.com.